Teachers of Reddit, what was the most obvious teacher crush someone had on you? I had a student ask me if I was married. Yes. This was followed by, but are you happily married? I started teaching way too young. You gotta admire that dedication. Next question. But do you orgasm when you guys have sex? When I left, my computer unlocked and a student put naked pictures of herself as my wallpaper and a postie with her number. What the F? My first year teaching high school. The A/V department made an end of the year tape for the students every year as a keepsake. That year they allowed a senior to profess her love to me on the tape. I didn't know she had done this, and they had allowed it until it played over their A/V system to the whole school. Needless to say, I was pissed. But I couldn't make too much of a stink because I didn't want a lot of attention drawn to it. And they weren't going to take it out. Fuckers. I have a student this year who tells me how pretty my hair is every single day. He's 7. That's actually adorable, lol. Right? It makes my day. Teach English in China. The girls will literally say, I have a crush on you. This happened to me when Chinese exchange students visited my school. They're very straightforward. They aren't really used to privacy in this country. Government probably knows about your crushes before you do. Bit of a different one this. Parents' evening. Single mom comes in to talk about her son. Her youngest daughter, probably about 4, runs in, jumps on my knee and exclaims, my mummy says you're going to be our new daddy. Longest parents' evening of my life. I was a special needs teacher. There was zero subtlety. One student would constantly try to lift up my skirt. I had a student who had a rough life. Mom pretty much abandoned him and grandma was raising him by pawning him off to family on the weekends. I knew he was going to have a rough life if someone didn't step in and let him know he mattered. He asked me one day how I would know if someone loved me. I jokingly replied that that person would bring me coffee in the morning. A few days later he came into the gym with a huge smile and a cup of gas station coffee. He walked right up and handed it to me along with a bag of creamers and sugars. He said he didn't know how I liked my coffee, so he grabbed one of each. He saved his allowance, and asked his grandma to leave for school early so he could stop by the gas station. The next year he brought me a coffee mug so I could remember him when I drank my morning coffee. That kid will always have my heart. That is so sweet. I teach at a local university and I've had a few, including one who used to sketch me during class, one who tried to put his arm around me, etc. The most obvious and persistent was a student who used to follow me after class every day, show up at my office just to talk, and spent all of his time attempting to look down my shirt. He ended up dropping out of college halfway through the semester. A student who had a crush on me wrote a straightforward proposition and asked another teacher to deliver it to me. This teacher was a mentor of sorts to the student, so you'd think he'd do something wiser and more responsible than what he actually did, which was deliver the note and threaten me with some form of unspecified violence if I told anyone. So I informed the principal, and both the student and teacher were transferred to other schools. What the hell? I taught preschool and the owner's grandson would tell everyone we were going to get married once he was done with first grade. He even gave me mittens with hearts on them because hearts are for love. He's in middle school now and doesn't remember me, apparently. I teach preschool too. It was my last day at a school because I was moving. One of the 4-year-olds announced to everyone that he knew where I was moving. When asked, he explained that Miss Pumpkin Pasties was moving in with him as we were getting married. News to me. That's a power move that can't possibly go wrong. I teach at a university and students ask me out. I had a student once ask me out in front of the class while I was teaching, but I think it was more a power move than anything else. Had a teacher in high school who had the same thing happen to her. She looked at the kid and said, honey, I teach all day, don't have time to teach at night too. That shut him down pretty quickly. When I was playing Hamlet in the school play, and the girl playing Ophelia got stage fright at the last minute, so the drama teacher had to costume up and sub in for her, on her knees in a low-cut bodice, hanging onto my leg, and screaming, oh, help him, you sweet heavens. I got a boner in front of 500 people. Nice. 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 I had a kid ask me to marry him the other day. Then he proceeded to say I would be way too old for him by the time he was old enough to get married. The best day of your life and the worst day of your life. Kids are so cruel. With their marriage proposals. The one where she kept staring at me in class and invited me to her birthday party and we had sex that night. I teach languages to adults, by the way. Good. You had me in the first half, not gonna lie. I'm not a teacher, but I do have a story of when I was a HS student. It was my senior year and I had a crush on this young history teacher. He would come on model-un trips with us as a chaperone, so he knew who I was. It was my birthday and he heard from a different teacher across the hall. He said, "Happy birthday," to me, and my response was, "Thanks, I'm 18. I blurted it out very quickly and realized literally the second it left my mouth how inappropriate it was. His response, "Well, you can vote now." Not a teacher but used to be a Cub Scout guide. One of our boys, 10-yo, had a crush on my adjutant, 16-yo girl. He swore she will be his girlfriend one day, and was strangely serious about it. We laughed it off, and forgot about it. Years went by. The boy became a man, joined the army, came back, went to medical university, got buff and handsome, and reached out to his old crush on Facebook. They got married last May, and have a baby girl. Damn that ending though. Don't let your dreams become dreams. Not me, but when I was in school a teacher found another student's very graphic erotic fanfiction about him. Ended up having a conference with her parents, counselor, and principal. Girl got transferred to a different classroom but tried to shoot up the school with what she thought was her brother's secret gun. It was a toy he modified to look real. Hadn't seen or heard about her since, but before I graduated the school made it a rule that staff were not to be depicted in any creative work, and if any such work was found the owner was looking at suspension. I had a crush on my teacher in high school. After I graduated, I asked him out to lunch with my best friend and me. He agreed. We met up a few days later and he walked in with his husband. That was a rough day for me. That's hard. But forgive me. I just spat out my drink. Not a teacher, but I had a crush on a lunch lady while I was in the first grade, and I would always say, "Hey, good looking, what ya got cooking?" She knew what was up. "Did you get extra slop in the chow line?" I was always allowed to go up for sloppy seconds. In the days of MSN, I got a chat invite from someone who had the same last name as me. I assumed it was a relation, but they didn't say anything and so left for a bit to eat. I came back and saw a couple more people had been added to the chat and saw they'd been talking about me. I realized they were students because they referred to me as Miss Dash. They were teasing one of the others for his crush on me and he was defending my massive ass as hot. I can vouch for that. Massive asses are hot. Starting teaching high school English at 21 in the early 90s. Very religious, student wrote me an anonymous letter explaining that she believed that God had put her in my class because we were meant to be together. Figured it out by handwriting. Reported it. It was last days of the school year before she graduated, so I don't think I ever had to deal with her being in my class again because of finals or something. You never know. There was a Catholic all-girls school where I grew up that had several teachers married to former students. Actually. Yeah, it's pretty weird. My older brother's friend proposed to our 60-plus teacher every day. She always laughed about it. Cue the entire football team picking up on this and proposing to her before every game. For about 3 years. Q. Though the team may have queued up on Q. I thought he meant the football team was running a train on that teacher. Working as a substitute teacher, I had a 6th grader hand in a poem that went, "Roses are red, violets are blue, I am single, how about you?" She also worked her phone number into another poem she handed in. "Roses are red, my eyes are blue. Can I F you?" I taught pre-K and one student always wanted to be around me and would pretend to slip up and call me mom. He saw my phone had a screensaver of me and my at the time boyfriend and he got all mad and said I should break up with him, lol. Kids are adorable. I doubt he'll remember me in a few years. If it's anything like my 3rd grade crush he will never forget. Not a teacher, but this one girl had such a blatantly huge crush on my film studies teacher when we were 15/16ths. She herself was mixed race and would ask the poor guy if he preferred white chocolate, dark chocolate or caramel winky face. Safe to say that was awkward for everyone present in the room. Dislike like all of them. Not a teacher, but a student. I was in a psych class in my senior year of high school and had an admittedly attractive male teacher for the class. We're in the library one day to work on a presentation project, and I go to the printer to pick something up. This girl, who was clearly a sophomore, career school, all sophomores had purple polos, asked if I was in the class, and I said yes. She then told me, "You know, he's really hot. Like I'd really like to fuck him. But if you tell anyone, I'll fucking kill you." I just got out of the printer room with my work as fast as possible and told the teacher, who was horrified. That girl had looked dead serious and terrifying when she said that, and while I was 17 at the time, I was still scared. If you're reading this Mr. Boggs, I hope you and your wife are doing awesome. I'm not a teacher, but when I was in college we had a pretty sexy biology professor. Not only was he physically attractive, but he seemed to be a pretty cool person. Most of the women in his classes were pretty smitten, and I won't pretend like I wasn't one of them. However, I went back to college after a few years off, so I was 26 in rooms of 18 to 21-year-olds. 5 years may not seem like a huge difference, but holy shit, it was. His office was connected to the lab, and one day while myself and some other students were doing work in the lab, this one girl was quite loudly proclaiming the things she would do to him, including saying things like, "I don't care if he's married with kids." He was sitting in his office at the time, and I said, "You need to keep your ovaries in check. He can definitely hear you right now." She said she didn't care and she hoped it tempted him. It made me uncomfortable for him. I can't imagine how he must have felt. He usually came out of his office to chat with us or help us, but not that day. When I was in high school, I saw a handwritten letter on my English teacher's desk, while waiting to speak with her. Other kids were hanging around the desk, but I think I was the only one to spot and read the letter. It was sitting among piles of paperwork, partially obscured, but not hidden, so I suspect even the teacher hadn't seen it yet. Paraphrasing, but the letter went something like this. "MRS. S. I love your curves. I can't stop thinking about you. You are my favorite teacher because you have a great smile. I want to touch you and kiss you." I was invited to my first grade teacher's wedding. The whole class was, and wept the entire time. I wonder if she could tell that I loved her. Ah, your poor little heart. This one is sad. When I was student teaching, a student very badly photoshopped a picture of his head onto my profile picture from social media, which had me and my, now, husband together. He posted it to his social media saying, "Me and my new girlfriend, Miss Walsugar." Another student asked me to prom and gave me a rose. Hard no. I laughed it off, but I was actually super nervous I was going to get in trouble even though I hadn't done anything wrong. Last year, a student called me the sexy teacher in front of his friends. I don't think he had a crush on me, though. I think he was trying to get a rise out of me. It worked. I called his super strict mom immediately, before calming down, so I was still very angry, and she, and I quote, "hooped his ass." Came here just to see if my high school teacher put me on blast. Glad to see I'm not the only one. I taught grade 7 and one kid in particular took a liking to me. It wasn't a crush per se. It came across more as an elementary school fascination with the teacher. He would raise his hand constantly during class to answer questions, and when students were doing work he would raise his hand constantly to ask me random questions about my life. He had a few favorite questions like, "What song is stuck in your head right now?" Or, "What's your fiance's name?" One time he very excitedly told me he had seen me at Costco, and I hadn't been to Costco that week, so he clearly was seeing me in places I wasn't. Sounds like a crush to me. Oh man. I teach in a small program at a local university, so I've become friends with many of my students over the years, or at least gotten to know them pretty well. I've had students, of all genders, openly admit to having a crush on me, tell me other students have a crush on me, flirt openly, text flirt, even had a couple students fighting with each other on who could flirt more or win more of my attention. Some of it was kinda funny and lighthearted, some of it was not. How many dick pics? Exactly. Surely university students will not degenerate to that/s. A student ejaculated into a Ziploc bag and put it on my desk. He told me it was from him masturbating while thinking of me. Reason 9262-628-3362 that I am no longer teaching. What happened to the student? He was sent to an off-campus alternative school. 14-year-old came over, sat on my desk, crossed her legs, leaned real close while sliding her and across the desk toward me. Her. "I've brought you a present, me." Her. Notions toward her hand, me. Looks down to see a Magnum condom. This was the second day of teaching at this school, Blackpool, England. A Magnum? That girl is almost always going to be in for disappointment. Oh, you sweet summer child, It was for her to wear. Would you date me if I was older? An 11-year-old in my class. How do you even handle that situation? Nah, you're too old as it is. Hold up. During college I was teaching a lesson about money and having a job to kindergartners and opened with, so how do you guys think I got the money to buy candy? Small blonde child. Because you're cute. Supervising teacher in the back of the room just starts laughing lol. Now this one is just damn cute.